Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is Station, and we are ready for the event.
Houston ACR, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call Station for a voice check.
Station, this is Houston ACR. How do you hear me?
Houston ACR, we have you loud and clear. How about us?
Got you loud and clear. Please stand by for opening remarks.
Hello to the International Space Station from everyone at St. Mark's Episcopal Church and School in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. I'm Deborah Strange. It's my honor to serve as head of school for this exceptional PK2 through 8th grade school. We are thrilled to have this opportunity to ask you questions about your life as you live and work and conduct research on the International Space Station. The entire St. Mark's community, along with our education partners, are excited to tune in for this experience. And now, here is our first question.
Hi, I'm Lucy. Does food taste different in space?
And Lucy, yeah, food does taste a little bit different in space, mostly because your body changes when you get to space and fluid shifts around and your taste buds change. And, you know, we're up here for 6 months at a time, so what you like on any given day changes as well. But what's really interesting is how they package our food. So some of our food is just right in a nice aluminum packet, and some of it, like this is fruit basically, is rehydrated. So this is a mixture of berries, which I'll add water to and I'll eat tomorrow.
Hi, my name is Michael. How do you drink liquids on the space station?
Hey, Michael. You know, that's a really great question. We drink liquids from these little silver bags, and they basically protect the fluids that we drink. And then we have these little straws with little clips on them because if we just open them up to regular straws, stuff would just float away. So Woody's going to show you and see how big of a bubble we can make up here. And then we'll see if we can get it to float around and show you what fluids do in space. All right, so check that out. Nice big bubble of water. And now Woody's going to try to drink that for you and see if he can drink that whole thing. That's actually a lot of water. But Woody's really thirsty, so it's working out great.
Awesome.
Nice job, Woody.
Hi, my name's Ben. How do astronauts sleep?
Well, the sleep up here is really great, actually. We keep a pretty normal work schedule. We're actually on Greenwich Mean Time. We go to bed around 10 p.m., get up around 6 a.m. And in terms of physically sleeping, obviously we're all floating. And we have some sleeping bags. We get inside our sleeping bag, and typically they're bungeed to the wall or to the side of our crew quarters. Our crew quarters are actually in all sorts of different orientations. So, for example, Steve sleeps on the ceiling. So he's kind of up in a position like this when he's sleeping. I'm down in the floor. Frank sleeps on the wall, so he sleeps just kind of standing up straight. But all those different orientations feel the exact same to us, and the sleep is really high quality.
What is an all-day spaceship?
Right, so all day on our spaceship we work. If you look around, we're kind of surrounded by computers and cables, and there's a radiation detector and all sorts of interesting stuff. And we work on experiments all day and maintain the space station. So we have a very full day, as they just said, from 7:30 in the morning to 7:30 at night, we're basically working.
Hi, my name is Hudson. Do you grow your own food in space?
Hey, Hudson. You know what? We've been working on that for a while because learning how to grow fresh food in space is really important, especially as we transition to exploration missions going back to the moon and eventually back to Mars. And so we've been working on, hey, how do we best grow food? What's the best ratio of water to give them, nutrients, what kind of habitats do they grow best in? Currently we have two different things that we use. One is an advanced plant habitat, and it's kind of a self-contained environment that has everything the plants need. And then the other one is called Veggie, and there we grow the plants on these little pillows that have clay beads inside of them with nutrients, and then we water the plants every few days and watch them grow. And it's actually a lot of fun to watch little seeds grow into little plants that then have tomatoes is actually the last thing we grew, and it was just a lot of fun to watch them grow.
Hello, my name is Ruth. How does learning to grow plants in space affect the future?
Well, I actually think right now is one of the most exciting times in human space exploration history. We're right at a transition point where NASA is going to start pushing further and deeper into the solar system than we ever have before, starting with the moon. And we're going to use the moon as a proving ground for missions to Mars. And for those missions, we're going to be needing to extract resources from the planetary bodies that we visit. And we're going to definitely need to do things like recycling our water and growing plants in space. And so all of these are really important technologies to our future missions. And that's what's really cool about the space station right now. We have a 22-year continuous presence up here working and living in space. And we've really used, one of the key things we've done on the space station is used it as a proving ground for all of the technologies we're going to use on our future missions.
Hi, my name is Elise. What are the critical components in maintaining plants in space?
And that's one of the things we're looking at. I'll see the, as Frank just said, the water and the nutrients, there's different ways of providing them. We're also trying to determine which ones are the important ones. So light, what frequencies of light, water, is there a right amount of water, and the different nutrients and how they affect each of the different plants.
Hi, my name is Brooke. I'm wondering, how do you put on clothes in space?
Hey, Brooke. Well, we put our clothes on pretty much just like you do back on Earth. The only difference is that we can actually put our pants on 2 legs at a time because we can just float. You just kind of let your legs come up, stick your legs in the pants, and then you pull your pants up. The problem is, as you do anything in space, any movement has an equal reaction, right? So as you push off even on your clothes, you're going to create a little bit of momentum. And so you just have to learn how to push back and push yourself back to where you want to be. But it's kind of a fun game of push and react to every movement that you have up here.
Hi, my name is Finn. How do you keep your tools from floating away?
Well, that is a great question. We have a number of things we use to keep everything from floating away. You're exactly right. If we don't keep our tools attached to something, they will float away and disappear. And often they end up in an air inlet duct. That's where we find them. But Steve's demonstrating here one of the tools we have is just a simple tether, so we can tether our tools to ourselves so they can't get very far. Another thing you notice, my pants, I have Velcro strips on my pants, and this is an iPad that I use for procedures, and so I can just Velcro that to my pants. We use a lot of Velcro all over the space station. There's some here on this desk, and I can just Velcro things temporarily that I need to hold in space. And then one other thing we sometimes use is just little strips of tape. We can actually tape small little parts down and keep them from floating away.
My name is Rex, and I would like to know what it feels like to float in microgravity.
Yeah, floating in microgravity feels great. It never gets old. Once you get used to the environment up here and living up here, you just get very comfortable, just kind of hanging out.
My name is Olivia. How was the feeling of liftoff the same or different to the feeling you had when you were training?
Hey, Olivia, you know what? Liftoff was a lot of fun. I think all wanted to always lift off in a rocket, and so when you finally get to do it, it's really cool. The one thing that's really surprising is how quiet it is. And that's because all that energy is dissipated away from the spacecraft, because you don't want the waves that are associated with that sound to damage the aircraft as you're lifting off. And so we use special structures to push all that energy away from the spacecraft, and it's actually really quiet. But the people standing around you, they're actually a couple miles away from you. They feel all that energy, and they feel it going through their body, and they hear a really loud boom as you take off. And then you start off really slow, and you quickly pick up a lot of speed. And before you know it, you're going over 10,000 miles an hour.
Hi, my name is Reed. What is training like before traveling to space?
Well, the training is really fun. All three of us found out about 2 years before the start of our mission that we were going to be flying on this mission. And so we do about 2 years of training devoted to this specific mission on the ground. And it's really varied. We have training centers all over the world, actually, with our international partners, where we go to train on their, we have modules from our international partners on the space station, and we train on those. Then back in Houston, we have a lot of training facilities. We have one dedicated to sort of the inside of the space station and all of its systems. We have another that's a very large pool. It's called the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, and that's where we practice spacewalking. We fly T-38 jets as part of our training. And in general, every day is different in training, but it all kind of comes together to prepare us for ultimately flying the mission.
Hi, my name is Cruz, and I'd like to know what materials are used on the bottom of the spacecraft to handle the heat from re-entering Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah, entering the Earth's atmosphere with the speeds that we're flying is a very difficult problem. And so through the years, they've tried a number of different things, and usually they come back to the idea of ablation, where the material on the bottom of the vehicle just wears away as it heats up and it comes off. So right now we use a material called pica, which is a phenolic impregnated carbon ablative, and that just slowly burns away. On the shuttle, we had a tile system that was similar, and they would reuse tiles over and over again on the same vehicle. This is one of the big problems when we're going to the moon. The return velocities are even higher than what we experience on entry, and so that material that we use on our return from the moon is going to be pretty impressive.
Hi, my name is Ethan. What are some pros and cons of microgravity?
Hey, Ethan. Well, on a personal note, the biggest pro is that it's a lot of fun to be in microgravity and float around and just have fun. But we're not just up here to have fun. We're actually up here to do science. And microgravity allows us to do a lot of things that we just can't do on Earth, specifically with different materials like proteins, metals, crystals, glass. And without the different forces that we see on Earth, especially gravity, and actually convection's another one, right? Because hot air tends to rise because of gravity. And so we get rid of all those here, and we're able to make much better crystals and proteins and materials, and hopefully develop methods that will allow us to make those things much easier, much cheaper, and then improve life on Earth for all of our friends. The downside is that, unfortunately, especially on a health level, microgravity can tend to mimic aging for humans. And you see muscle wasting and bone wasting, and that's just because we don't have the resistive forces that gravity provides on our body. You'd be surprised how much just standing and walking does for your body and how good those things are. So up here, we're kind of missing those things, and we have to make up for them with things like exercise.
Hi, my name is Summer. What do you do to adjust to life back on Earth after going so long without gravity?
Well, that's a great question. As Frank mentioned, we're exposed to kind of an extreme environment here in that we don't have the normal loading on our skeleton that we do on Earth. We have a lot of fluid shifts. And so that process of adjusting to life back on Earth actually starts while we're up here with a lot of exercise. That's really key to a good rehab when we get home. And then once we get home, we have an amazing team of basically strength trainers and rehabilitation specialists that walk us through a dedicated program to rehabilitate us to life in 1G on the surface of Earth. And so that process plays out over a few weeks to months, and that first couple weeks is really critical to having a good outcome.
My name is Lawson. What types of workouts do the astronauts do to keep their muscles from weakening?
So that's a very good question because, for most of the time we're up here, 24 hours a day, if we did no exercise, we'd put no loads on our bodies and our muscles and bones would atrophy, they'd waste away. So every day we work out to about 2 hours, 2.5 hours of load-bearing exercise, and that's really important because that helps with maintains your bone density and muscle mass, which helps us when we get back to Earth to stay healthy and strong. And they do a very good job of, as we go through our mission over the 6 months or so, they keep changing it and improving it, making sure it's still difficult so you can maximize your strength when you return.
Hi, my name is Mary, and my question is, what's the longest period an astronaut has been in space?
Hey, Mary. Well, some people have spent a long time in space. The longest was actually by a Russian cosmonaut, Valery Polyakov, and he was up here for 438 days. As far as American astronauts go, the record holder is one of our good friends, Mark Vande Hei, and he was up here for 355 days. And the really cool part is the record holder for the longest time in space, now she did it over multiple missions, is Peggy Whitson, and she's actually up here hanging out with us now. And she's over 670 days, and we'll see how much longer she stays up here to add to her total record. But yeah, people have been living in space for a long time, and some people for a little bit longer than others.
Hi, I'm Ellison. What are some of the different jobs people have on the station?
Well, that's actually one of my favorite parts of being up here is that we have a lot of different jobs. Every day we're doing something different. So being up here for 6 months, we all get to do a lot of different things. We are all flight engineers on board the space station, and that kind of means that we all do everything. So on any given day, we might be maintaining the equipment up here. We are space plumbers, we're space electricians, fixing all the hardware, keeping it in good working order. We do a lot of scientific research. So sometimes we're working in glove boxes or carrying out scientific experiments, often on ourselves. Another thing we occasionally do is get to go outside for a spacewalk, and that's where we do some maintenance activities on the outside of the space station. So every day is just very different and varied, and it's a lot of fun getting to do all those different things.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth. How do you know if it's night or day?
So Elizabeth, there are windows on board the space station, so if you're fortunate enough, you can be near one, you can look out and see if it's night or day. What's interesting is that we actually have 16 nights and days every single 24-hour period. So we can't just look at the clock and say, oh, it's noon, it must be sunshine outside. And that doesn't work. But fortunately on our schedule, they do tell us at the top of the schedule when it's going to be night and when it's going to be day, or we can just go out and look outside the window.
Hi, my name is Catherine. Is it easy to recognize the continents on Earth from space?
Hey, Catherine, you know what? We're only 250 miles above the surface of the Earth, which really isn't that far. We would have to be probably closer to 1,000 miles to start seeing an entire continent. But after you've been up here for a couple months, you start to really recognize what each continent looks like because they all looked very different. Africa looks very different from South America, which looks very different from Asia. And so between the coastline and just the way that the dirt looks, you can actually learn to recognize where you are pretty well. And it's kind of fun to play a game with, you go out and look out the window and see if you can guess where you are.
Thank you, NASA, for this amazing opportunity. And thank you, astronauts, for your service to humanity through your work on the International Space Station. As St. Mark's prepares the next generation of leaders, they can look to your example of how to best be stewards of our planet and beyond.
Well, thank you so much, and good luck to all the great students at St. Mark's.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes our event.
We are now resuming operational audio communications. Thank you.